Thanks, Jose. Wonderful to see everybody today. Thank you very much for having me. Let me introduce myself. Jose's just done a much better job than actually I can. My name is Ben Quigley, and I am a father of 5. This is my family, and I was very proud of this particular selfie, which was taken just last year on the Mall in Washington, D.C. in the United States, until I realized that my son, Henry's head, is completely obscuring the Lincoln Memorial that would have made it a shot that you could tell where it actually was. So that was a bit of a shame, and it pretty much sums up my life. I love, with my family, to discover new places and to experience new types of cultures. So it's an absolute pleasure for me in the last day or so, because it's my first time in Latvia, to be exploring the wonderful city of Riga, and it's fantastic to be here with you. As Jose said, I do have a day job or two. I am the chief executive of a creative marketing consultancy group called Everything Different, which is based in Newcastle upon Tyne in the north of England, but has an office in London. Here's a little bit about what we do. We, as an organization, are all about brands, and we're all about growing brands. We believe that brands, whether or not they're a product, whether or not they're a service, whether or not they're not a city, or whether or not they're a whole region, are all invented for growth. And therefore, in an ever-changing world as we are today, we need our brands to be agile, and we need our brands to have an authentic purpose in terms of why we're going to get involved with them in the first place. So you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, this is my company's purpose. We have one too. And we believe that we're here in order to help build successful, future-proof brands, so that our clients can enjoy a greater slice of the future. Now, that's not an exciting tagline that you might expect from a creative marketing services group, but that's the very real reason why, authentically, we get out of bed in the morning to work for people like you. We're in a really, really interesting place at the moment with marketing and with brands. We're at a time where creativity, where business, where data and technology are all converging like they never have done before. So we've reached a point where we're converging those disciplines too. So in our marketing group, we actually have 3 companies who work individually in specialist areas with a set of specialist clients. So starting from the right-hand side, we have a company called Different Ltd. Ology is the study of knowledge, and these guys are doing some really, really smart stuff in the world of research, insight, and strategy pieces. So we mentioned before that they're working with Sky. One of the things that they do with Sky is they use neuroscience so that we don't anymore have to ask people what they think about a product or a service. We can actually tell from their brainwaves how they're responding emotionally and in terms of engagement. We have a branding communications and advertising agency, which is called Different, down on the left-hand side, which was where the business started in 1999. And then most recently added to our family, we have a digital specialist business called Different Story. And Different Story works in the environment of creating digital content that gets people to do something without overtly trying to push for a sale, that builds stuff, so apps, websites, interesting stuff like that help people have a better digital experience. And then we have a digital performance marketing agency side as well, which helps people to optimize their online experiences to get the most out of them. So each of those work individually with a range of clients, as Jose mentioned before, but collectively we work together on an integrated basis that's greater than the sum of the parts as well, which is why we're also called Everything Different. And as you can imagine, in a world where technology, data and creativity are converging rapidly, as I'm sure you're all finding, the key thing for us is about fostering collaboration. Collaboration between our colleagues in the business, collaboration between our different divisions that I'm showing you behind, and also collaboration, goodness knows, with our clients and with our partner companies. So actually our tagline is, together we make a difference, because collaboration is the biggest challenge, but collaboration is the biggest win in the near future. Here are just some of the brands that we work for. We work for brands nationally in the UK and internationally as well, I'm pleased to say. We work for city marketing organisations, and I know that many of you in the room are from city marketing municipalities across Latvia. We work for many of you guys as well. We also have been involved with regional marketing organisations as well, and we've even been involved with marketing whole countries like Germany as destinations within the UK. And we also work for the World Travel and Tourism Council, which is the world authority on tourism within the private sector. But that's enough about us. The reason I mention it is because togetherness is also the theme of my talk today and my case study on a place branding campaign for North East England in the UK, because togetherness and organising people around a shared agenda is something which can create great power. In this instance, we not only created a successful place brand, but also a shared movement with a shared purpose. We all know brands that have changed culture. We can all mention the names like that. But the brands that really, really succeed in today's world are the worlds that go further, are the brands which engage people and get them on board to try and change something, to get involved, to take part, to take ownership of a brand. That's when you really hit the sweet spot in terms of performance. They enjoy success because they get people on their side. They don't campaign, they have a higher purpose. And indeed, that higher purpose could even be called, in some instances, a crusade. So just like Nelson's example with New Brunswick, we had major challenges with North East England. Although there have been huge amounts of investment in tourism and in infrastructure and in huge capital projects in North East England in the 1990s, in the 2000s, nobody knew about them. That's because there had been no successful communication, no coordinated umbrella in order to push all of these agendas about tourism, investment, and North East England is a great place to live, work, invest, study and do business. Indeed, most people are asking, just as Nelson's example with New Brunswick, where exactly is North East England? I'm sure you all know, but just for those of you that don't, North East England is the bit on the top right-hand side on the border with Scotland. It's the furthest point from London. It's 360 miles away. It's a long way in cultural as well as in distance terms from the epicentre of the British economy. And before you ask any further, yes, I'm a Remainer. I'm absolutely devastated about what my country has been involved in doing in recent times. More on that later. In terms of North East England, although the North East of England has a really, really strong cultural identity, it only actually exists on a government map as just that, a government map of municipalities. So we're talking here about 4 counties, one of which is Northumberland in the north. In the centre, we have Tyne and Wear, which has the cities of Newcastle upon Tyne and Sunderland. In the south, we have Tees Valley, which has the city of Middlesbrough. And on the west-hand side, we have County Durham, which contains the famous university and cathedral city of Durham. And part of the problem, of course, is when you look at North East England as an entity, you have lots of localities, people identifying with their locality first and with the sense of region second, although there is a sense of common identity in the North East. And interestingly, when people said North East England before this programme started, people were saying, well, where is North East England? Is it actually Yorkshire? Does it start in Lincolnshire, which are further down? People weren't even sure what the boundaries were. So in 1999, the British government created 8 regional development agencies, 8 government agencies. The one for North East England was called One North East. And they had a hypothesis that one of the major barriers to the growth of the North East England was an outdated perception and image of the region compared to the new reality. So the first thing that they did was they contracted and commissioned a large piece of market research. And the results came back slightly worrying for One North East. On a national basis of all people from the UK, over 76% of people stated that they either knew very little or nothing at all about North East England. And as I say, this was due to a number of reasons: lack of investment in communicating the benefits of the region, and also confused marketing in the past, a number of false starts that hadn't taken off. But worryingly, this had also translated into a lack of self-confidence and identity within the North East as well. So only 26% of residents in 2004, when this study was commissioned, were prepared to talk as advocates positively about their own region. There was obviously quite significantly a challenge. So One North East set up a regional image team, which was only a small team of 10 people, a set of marketeers, a set of PR experts, a small in-house branding team, and they set about going to change that. And the first thing that they did was they looked and confronted the weaknesses that had come out of that research piece that they'd conducted before. And what that told them was that distance from the southeast was a perception barrier that needed to be overcome to boost investment, tourism and jobs. Also, northeast England, as you probably may know, has a strong heritage for traditional industries, shipbuilding, coal mining, steel manufacture, which were obviously dying during the 80s and 90s, and the region was still very much associated with those, even though there were lots of exciting new sectors starting to come through, including the digital economy, health and life sciences, renewable energy, and so on. Another major problem was the weather. So I think this is something which might ring true to certain people in Latvian marketing agencies. It was perceived to be bloody cold in the northeast of England, and why would I want to go there, even from people in the south of England who didn't know? And people were worried about the career opportunities. If there was this industrial wasteland, what could really be going on there that would be of worth? So there were quite a few things to challenge. But actually the new reality was very different from that. We had a number of positives. First off, a fantastic strength, largely tourism related, of history and heritage. Anyone who's visited northeast England will know that you've got more castles up a stretch of coastland of about 100 miles than you can shake a stick at. We have a castle every 2 seconds, and they're absolutely jam-packed with history. In fact, the county of Northumberland used to mean in medieval times no man's land, and that's because the English and the Scots were constantly battling, and the poor people of Northumberland were in the middle of it. Absolutely fantastic castles and coastline. Also, we're very blessed with the fact that northeast England has absolutely beautiful landscapes. We're very fortunate that we have, for instance, Hadrian's Wall, World Heritage Site, between ourselves and Cumbria in the west, going across across the region. And what's so great about northeast England is it's still a bit of a secret. You don't have the huge numbers of tourists that you would have visiting to Edinburgh in Scotland, or to the southwest of England, or indeed throughout London. So people could really, really enjoy and find undiscovered landscapes to enjoy. And we have another major asset. One of the things the research showed is that whilst people didn't know very much about northeast England, one thing they did know about is the people. The northeast people are very, very warm, very, very open, very, very friendly, and there's a great sense of community spirit. So whatever else little that people knew about northeast England, they could identify with this. Many people had heard of the Geordie nation in Newcastle, and indeed in the northeast of England there are a series of whole nations of people who share this great passion for life, but all have their distinct characteristics based on the city that they live in, Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough. And indeed, if ever you're in northeast England, come and visit me and prepare to have a long chat, because people in the northeast do not speak quickly. They take their time and they will talk about anything. So if you just want to ask them some directions on how to find a place in Newcastle, be prepared for a 20-minute conversation with them before you're allowed to get away. Another great development has been, as I said before, the investment in infrastructure, capital building projects on a very, very exciting level. This is an iconic shot of Newcastle's quayside with the Sage Music Centre, the Baltic Art Gallery, and of course the iconic bridges, of which there are 7. It's an absolutely fantastic place to be, and of course the benefits of living in the northeast of England are that, as I've been talking to many people in Riga, it's much, much cheaper. House prices are cheaper, people can afford to live there. So actually there's been a whole host of tech companies moving to the northeast of England because of the quality of life and the connectivity of the city and the connectivity of the northeast. It's easier to get around and it's easier to do stuff. So the first thing that One Northeast, the regional development agency, did after getting all of that intelligence was to have a look at how to tackle it. And what they did was, with their small branding team, was they created this rather functional government-looking identifier brand, which was to actually say there is a North East England. It's all lowercase font because that's to make it accessible. And we were confronted with this and we were told, produce an advertising campaign and PR campaign to promote North East England. And we thought, okay, what are we going to do here? So what we came back to them with, and they gave us 2 weeks, of course. Yeah, thanks, marketing community, for giving us plenty of time to have a think about stuff. We had 2 weeks, which happened to be over Christmas, to respond to the tender brief. Thanks a lot again, that was great. And what we did was we challenged that idea of actually requiring an advertising and PR campaign, and we came back with a 7-point plan. And interestingly enough, the 7-point plan was what we ran with. And the reason for that was that we came up with a series of ingredients that we thought were going to be absolutely vital for success if we were going to be more than an advertising and PR campaign. That actually what we needed to do was mobilise people around a shared purpose to tackle these problems of North East England. So what did we do? So the first thing, the first ingredient, the first part of the plan was to come up with a definitive goal. You've got to be clear about what it is that you want to achieve in the first place. And so from a North East England point of view, it was very clear in our minds that advertising was not going to generate leads. PR was not going to generate leads. City marketeers and investment teams deal with converting business. What we do from a marketing communications point of view is to support economic growth by creating the right conditions for a sale to take place, by changing perception, by strengthening consideration, by creating engagement so that we could make North East England much, much more on the map so that those conversations and those conversions could take place. And in order to do that, we needed to raise awareness because there was none, which was shown by our research, and we needed to position North East England as a great place to live, work and invest, not an industrial northern wasteland, not cold, not a place of no opportunity. And the key thing that we identified right from the outset was that this wasn't going to work if we didn't have every single member of the local population on board with us. Otherwise, it would be a superficial campaign, which was just being run, a set of words or pictures, which from an ad man's point of view, that may sound strange. But for us, we knew that we had to galvanise people for success. Plus also, quite frankly as well, if you cannot get the local population on board, what chance do you stand with convincing other people to join your cause? And for us as well, we had other challenges, financial challenges as well. The UK government put significant funds behind this particular campaign, but the funds were only the same as all the other English regions had. And at the same time, we were competing not only with them, but with Scotland and with Ireland. Scotland had double the budget of the English regions, and Ireland had 7 times the budgets of the English regions. How could we possibly hope to compete with those guys who were already better known than we were and had bigger budgets? So the first thing was to have a pretty clear view of how creativity was going to help us build a brand. This rather complicated looking chart tells you a lot of fairly basic stuff about how to create attitude change. That if you can create emotive content, if you have good creative execution, and if you can create new memory structures by building brand relationships, then you can impact on attitude change, and in time you can impact on behaviour, which is the ultimate aim of the game. And so for us, in our case, we had 5 choices from a communications point of view, how we were going to make things work. At one end of the scale, you can prompt instant action. Well, it wasn't about that. At the other end, you can subtly change existing perceptions over time. It wasn't about that. We settled on number 2 and number 3 here. We wanted to create new perceptions, changing those perceptions, those negative perceptions and those outdated perceptions that persisted. We wanted to give people new knowledge about North East England that they didn't know about before. And for those, we also wanted to improve consideration to make sure that people felt more strongly about North East England than they did previously. And as I said before, it was all about driving image change through resident advocacy in North East England. And by resident advocacy, I mean, both the local population, the general public, and also the business and investment community. If we could provide background mood music to lay the groundwork for specific campaigns and specific investment initiatives that were going on and tourism-related initiatives that were going on, we had a real chance. But we had to create a movement around something that people cared about and that's something that people could identify with and that was authentic to North East England. And in that way, we could then straddle all of the different agendas and bring them together for once under the same roof in a coordinated way around one idea which had never happened before. So we needed a rallying cry. A rallying cry is your statement of intent. It's what defines you. We looked for inspiration back in the research piece that One North East had commissioned, and the answer turned out to be right underneath our noses. Whilst people didn't know much about North East England, what they did know about was that famous North East welcome, the friendliness of the people, the determination of the people, and the sense of community spirit. It came out as double the strength in terms of sentiment and knowledge about North East England than anything else. So, taking that famous passion for life, this was unique, it was a truth, it was ownable, and everyone in the region could identify with it. We took that idea out and spoke to a number of stakeholders in the enterprise investment networks of North East England and put it in front of them. And they all said, yeah, you could be onto something there. You could be onto something there. So we had them on board to start with. And we knew that we could have a winning idea if we could combine people and places and things that were going on in North East England in an engaging way that was true to the people of the North East. So this was born. This is our rallying cry. It was passionate people, passionate places. We created it at our agency, the scripted typeface, the font. It was actually the handwriting of one of our members of staff who's got absolutely beautiful handwriting. And then we got our head of design to actually turn it into a typeface so that we could use it for any purpose we needed and put any letters together. So it came from a real person. The choice of colour we eventually settled on was purple, because of course purple is the colour of passion. Later on we found out that might be a bit of a problem in marketing to the Middle East, where passion has a different meaning. So we had to change the colour when we went for some international marketing, but that's where it came from. And we knew that with this, we felt that we had a spark to unite people and create real pride around changing those perception gaps. And of course, no campaign and no movement is going to be successful unless it has iconography. Iconography is the symbols that you need in order for people to align with your cause and also for them to show their own allegiance. So we took that rather cold and clinical regional identifier brand, North East England, which was where it was, and we were confident that with our organising idea for tourism, for investment, and for other partner campaigns, passionate people, passionate places, that we could breathe meaning into what North East England was and connect up all the great stuff that was happening there in a really credible way. And most importantly, you'll see me talking about ambassadors, adoption, and about advocacy. We created the device Passionate About. And Passionate About was then managed by the marketing team at One North East. And through our team, we created a whole range of Passionate Abouts for every sector, from training to forestry, through to recruitment, through to health and life sciences, that enabled people to show their own support for North East England in their own marketing, which also, of course, enabled us to make the campaign go much further than the budget was that we had available. We were using advocacy and using real people as our channel, as our device, rather than advertising. Advertising was just the fire, the spark to get people in to find out more, so that we could then get real people acting as advocates, talking up North East England in the region and beyond on their travels. And of course, we also produced a set of guidelines in terms of how it should be used so that we're all singing off the right hymn sheet at the same time. And a number of assets about why North East England was a great place to live, work, visit, study, invest and do business. But we did need some mind bombs. Mind bombs are the image or the story that's going to open up the world's eyes to catapult your cause into culture and to lead people to act. It's the image or story that inspires and just can't be ignored. We started off with a regional image umbrella awareness-raising campaign, which launched first of all within North East England, so that the people of the North East knew about it first, and then went nationally and internationally. We kicked off with a campaign on the London Underground, so that we could take that message to the centre of the UK, and then we took over transport termini and in-flight magazines to start to spread the word outwards. Next up, we then started to get involved with tactical tourism campaigns, and then we looked specifically at supporting business sectors that were showing high growth potential in North East England, so that we're building on a platform all the way out. And this simple schematic shows that relationship of umbrella awareness activity, changing the perception, creating the right background conditions where change can take place, so that then a series of tactical marketing initiatives could sit on top related to that central organising idea of passionate people, passionate places. From tourism campaigns that were designed to drag in real response and ROI on a short-term basis, to supporting investment campaigns with collateral, support and information in order to help the investment teams make a sale, to talent and attraction and retention campaigns to help organisations get the access to talent that they need, and then also partner campaigns that were related. And finally, an ambassador campaign, leveraging institutionally that advocacy that was available within the region. I'll come on to that in a moment. So here's an example of the launch ads. They may look a bit dated now, although I think they've held up relatively well. This was launched in 2005. So this is 17 years old, pretty much, this work. What we did here was we took the simple theme of people and places, so you have a kite surfer who is a champion kite surfer against the beautiful backdrop of Bamburgh Castle. So we're talking about our themes of countryside and coast, history and heritage, but we're setting it in a very, very contemporary backdrop. And we have our iconography here, our swoosh, our purple, our North East England identifier brand, and we highlight where it is and what the story is. This is Catherine Tickell. Catherine Tickell is a well-renowned folk musician. So we showed her passionately playing her violin as an ambassador against the backdrop of the Newcastle and Gateshead urban quayside. And I talked about that advocacy of creating the brand adoption device Passionate About. Pretty quickly after launching it, we found that a firestorm took place and organisations from all over North East England started to be requesting copies of their Passionate About. Can we have one for this? Can we have one for that? So it was taken up by the Port of Tyne. It was taken up by the fire service, supporting their community initiatives. It was taken up by recruitment consultants who wanted to use it to position North East England as a great place to attract talent to. It was used by the tourism team who were going out marketing North East England at various tourism exhibitions, and it was also used as the branding device to anchor major sporting events like the Sevy Trophy, which was brought to North East England. And then it could be adapted and adopted for tourism marketing on a national and international basis, so attracting members of the UK public to consider a trip to North East England around passionate people, passionate places. A whole range of campaigns were successfully launched around specific interests like cycling, like walking, like the castles. We've got an amazing range of heritage gardens in the region as well. And pretty quickly they found that all of the collateral and all the campaigns were returning big money against the money that was invested specifically, and were also helping to change the image of North East England as well. And we marketed internationally, working with Visit Britain to amplify and take the story out further afield. And we produced an award-winning television commercial campaign as well.
When does a place become part of you? When its history echoes down to you through the ages. When it offers sanctuary from a restless world. When its wilderness speaks and you understand. When the tempo picks up as the sun goes down. When the locals welcome you like friends. When your spirit soars. When you're in Northeast England.
So it was always recognised that the regional image campaign was going to be not just about changing perceptions, it was also going to be about supporting innovative businesses in North East England, breaking down barriers to investment, relocation and talent retention. By positively influencing regional image, the campaign played a significant role and the movement played a significant role in the economic development of the North East. So the second phase of the campaign focused on promoting the business and innovation story, positioning the region as a dynamic business location synonymous with innovation and excellence, again using the same mechanic of an ambassador and an ad star and a place and an activity and a narrative around the great stuff going on in North East England to create new news. And we did that in the space of talking about ultra-low carbon vehicle technology, in sustainable energy, and in sustainable energy, and also in innovative companies which are involved in using light in incredibly light-efficient ways that don't impact on energy, and health and life sciences, commercialising R&D in health and life sciences work and the spin-outs from the universities in the region. The mechanic being basically the same. And what we did then was also to start to badge up to support One North East as the enabler that had helped all of this to happen. And we supported all of that with a portal. So we were very quickly into the digital world with the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign. The portal enabled you to see how to access the doorways to how to visit the region, how to find out more about investing in the region, what it was like to live and work in the region, and of course to encourage people to showcase, reward, celebrate, and encourage people to become ambassadors in their own right. So on the website, you could find out about investment guides, what was the support and help that was available to your business. You could find out about sectors that were succeeding within North East England. You could also find out what industry support was available to you in your specialist sector, and what it would be like for your employees and for your potential recruits to live and work in North East England, including what the leisure opportunities were, what the quality of life was, and also for people to find out more about their own future and what sort of job prospects they could expect in North East England. So with all of that going on, it felt like North East England was everywhere all of the time. It became pretty much quickly part of the fabric. But we didn't let it go there as well. We also needed propaganda. So if the mine bombs attract a following with fireworks, think of the PR and the social campaigns and strategies that followed as the roaring fire that kept it there. But it was really, really important for us to make sure that it still inspired and that it was authentic rather than interrupting and lecturing. So a number of PR initiatives were led, about 101 great things that are happening within North East England businesses, about encouraging people to become ambassadors, showcasing through PR the success stories and aligning the region with its key strengths, for instance in a low carbon future in vehicles, and also pushing North East England to the fore in terms of involvement with the supply chain with sustainable energy. How do we do that? Well, we set up a series of regional media partnerships in order to make sure that we had the regional media on board. We spent a very small amount of advertising money with these guys, which then gave us sponsorship platforms where we could talk week after week about great stuff that was going on within North East England, case studies, great businesses, emerging technologies. So suddenly people saw this stuff, it got reinforced, it was authentic, it was real, celebrating real people and real businesses in the region. And these guys also then, because they were part of the campaign, became very positive advocates in their own right to support the campaign. So the media owners themselves, many of them went as far as changing their own mastheads and incorporating the branding of the regional campaign into their own branding, even though they weren't paid to do so. And I've talked about that advocacy piece a lot. It's vital. You need allies that spread fame and that create change. We created an ambassador program of advocates from business, tourism, and culture. And guess what? They all did it for free. They bought into the crusade. With enlightened self-interest, we started recruiting with the people who starred in our ads, and we equipped them to become ambassadors to talk up the northeast of England around the world with key facts and figures. We supplied them with slides, images, data that they could use in their own marketing. And of course, these people in their own right were experts in their own field, so they became great spokespeople for everything that was going on. We created this website that encouraged people to spread the word about North East England, that showcased the various different ambassadors from lots of different sectors. Gave people access to North East facts and figures, and we produced recruitment campaigns, collateral, which encouraged people to take part. In 2010, we had a change of government in the UK. After the financial crisis, Tony Blair was replaced by David Cameron, and suddenly the world changed. And the UK has since gone into a very, very heavy period of austerity at government level. So by 2012, the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign funding dried up, and the Regional Development Agency, One North East, was wound up, and everything went back to super local level. So what are the outcomes and legacies of what the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign and movement actually achieved? Well, the first thing was, it did become a movement, and it didn't die. Even though government funding had dried up in 2012, people carried on using the brand, and they still carry on using the brand to today. Now, for a government campaign, that's pretty unique as far as I know. And I stated to you that at the outset was one of our aims was to change that perception. We had that huge perception gap. Remember at the start, nationally, in the UK alone, let alone worldwide, 76% of people knew nothing about North East England or very little about North East England, and only 26% of people in North East England would speak as advocates of the region. Well, actually, when exposed to the campaign afterwards, 80%, 8 out of 10 people exposed, became advocates for the region. 55% of people nationally were prepared to speak highly of the region. And One North East estimated in its legacy that the investments delivered an overall return of 2 to 1 with total GVA benefits of 26.2 million against the investment in the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign. I talked about advocacy. In North East England, we have a North East Chamber of Commerce, which businesses can sign up to as a membership organisation for the businesses in North East England. There's 4,000 members of that organisation. 2,000 of them became ambassadors to support the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign, all of them using the branding in their own marketing to talk up the region, around the UK, within the region, and around the rest of the world. And in terms of tourism campaigns, we had direct response campaigns that were responsible for generating income. And for each pound spent, One North East estimated that the campaign generated £40 in return. And during the period of the campaign, North East England, from the smallest base, became the fastest growing English tourism region. And it did that by growing overnight visitors by 9% to 8.5 million a year. And the growth of tourism during that period, supported by the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign, grew from 3.5 billion to 4 billion. And tourism volume grew by 6% during that period as well. And when we went into the period of austerity, it fell off by 20% once the funding was taken away. The campaign was recognised not once but twice in the World Tourism Awards for Best Regional Destination Marketing Campaign and for World's Best Regional Tourism Commercial. And interestingly, although I'm not going to claim the financial benefits, this is what the impact of One North East was on gross value added during the period. If you take the outputs of North East England and then take away consumption, as you can see during the 1990s, pre-One North East coming in that the region was flatlining. One North East stabilised that out, and then you can see that during the period of the Passionate People, Passionate Places campaign, the degree of acceleration was at its highest. And even after the financial crisis of 27-28, things recovered at a faster pace of change. And indeed, the North East actually grew during the 2000s. GVA grew at the highest rate per head of all the English regions and was only second to London during that period. And also, the number of businesses investing and registered in North East England increased during the period of the campaign. So certainly in terms of creating the right conditions for success, building confidence and pride, it was a big winner. So to wrap up, I've been talking a lot about togetherness and about shared interest and about purpose. Purposeful brands win out. When you're trying to change something for the better, you really can make things happen. And the great news for anyone involved in place branding or in branding full stop is that the 7 ingredients here are replicable elsewhere. You need to have, though, a brand that has real purpose and a brand that is ready to change things for the better. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you tremendously. Ben, I'm going to cut off to the audience and to see if they have any specific questions about the case study you presented. And we have a specific question right there. I take time for one, because then we'll be late.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. And yeah, I think it is really very good case when from very small resources, so to say, and kind of not a very good position when you could do such a thing. And you listed several things which were kind of factors, how success factors. One of them was this create a movement, and I think this might be very important, and I think many such campaigns could, and that they live after already the money was there, that it is still a movement. I think it's really important. So my question would be, I get that many other agencies and many other regions in the world are kind of trying to achieve the same thing that you have done, but they never succeed in making a movement. So could you comment a bit from your perspective and from all your experience, what maybe all those failures are missing and why they are not able to create a movement? Because I think that's the most important thing to have a success in whatever regional advertising.
That's a really, really good question. I think that where, as marketeers, we can sometimes fall down is that we fall in love with marketing for marketing's sake. We love all of the mechanics of marketing, like advertising and like branding. We love PR. We love putting together campaigns. But sometimes we lose the connection with why those campaigns are supposed to exist in the first place. My emphasis on the importance of brands that have real purpose is really important. The success of that campaign was all about having a clear purpose that everyone could buy into and then doing it in a really, really engaging way that was true to the realities of the North East. I think there's a danger sometimes that marketing campaigns can work top down rather than bottom up. So what I would say to people by way of advice is talk to real people. We spent a lot of time when we were looking at that research thinking about how and talking to people, to real people, about what would engage them, how they would like to get involved, and talking about those aims and objectives before that campaign was put together, so that it didn't end up being a top-down advertising and PR campaign. It became a bottom-up movement that had real substance.
I forgot to ask, can you please tell your name and your organization?
Yeah, my name is Ilana Baumann-Vitoļiņa, and yeah, I do different things. I work at the University of Latvia. I do my postdoc research, and I also work at headhunting company Amrop, so a lot of things.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Anyone else has another question? Yes. Microphone.
Thank you so much. My name is Lolita. I'm working for Dobele district here in Latvian regional part of the Zemgale. But I have a really practical question. I saw that, of course, in any cases, there were 4 directs, if I can call so, municipalities. Mm-hmm. How you got them to work together? Because sometimes there are some challenges and really hard problems to get on one really united also goal, if I could say so.
I'm not going to lie, that was a challenge. So in this room we have people who are going to be marketing their own principality as well as collaborating. Encouraging and fostering collaboration is a really, really difficult thing when you're frenemies, as we might say in the UK, where you're competing and then you're also collaborating. One North East, I have to say, in that instance did an absolutely fantastic job of bridging that divide. Because in the municipality sense of those 4 regions, people wanted the money for their own region and they wanted to do their own thing. So by having a campaign and having a movement that people could still recognise that was true to them as well as to the whole region, we were able to win everybody over, but it wasn't straightforward. And One North East did an awful lot of work with all of those organisations to make sure that the development of the movement and the campaign was listening to them and then applied locally at local level around the needs of those organisations and those bodies. So for instance, in the south, Teesside, Cleveland, Middlesbrough is very known as an industrial zone, very big on chemicals, whereas Northumberland in the north is a very rural county. So it was about making sure that these guys could see how passionate people, passionate places could be tuned up for chemicals and tuned up for tourism and applied on that basis, so that there was an agreed framework that everybody could agree on.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.